Welcome to this week's Desk Side Chat. This week, our guest is Ryan Geschke. Ryan, thanks for joining us this week.
Thanks, John. Happy to be here.
Excited to have you. Our topic, Ryan, is quantifying your P&L. Now, Ryan, you and I go back. We worked together back at NPH and have kind of both come full circle and are working together loosely right now. You've been a part of our community, helping us grow, get the word out, and talking about your philosophy and really the philosophy behind New Edge Advisors and what you guys have put together throughout your network. So if you could start off, Ryan, just provide a real quick background on yourself and then also New Edge, and then we'll jump into the topic this week.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, John. And like John said, he and I worked together at Jackson's family of broker dealers, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe. Seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
But I spent, 10 years of starting compliance. I've only ever worked with independent advisors, on most of that on the RA side of the house. For 10 years, I was a hybrid wholesaler for a corporate RIA at MPH. So it was the regional advisory consultant wholesaling, helping advisors shift towards the fee-based trend that's now become a wave. And then in 2017 joined Goss Advisors, or now New Edge Advisors, the RA formerly known as Goss Advisors. And we are a shared RA aggregator, one of the large ones. We have, it's been a really fun ride. I would say a lot of growth. We're 200 independent teams, closer to 275 advisors. It's north of 20 billion in assets at 5 custodians, several broker dealers. And it's, be an RIA without, all the benefits of being an RA without actually filing your ADV and being an RIA. Own your business, be independent, keep your own brand. And it's a model that's working, and we're having a lot of fun behind the scenes at the firm with this kind of maniacal idea of give advisors more of themselves, give the successful right advisors more of themselves, and they do better and they grow more and everybody's happy.
And one thing that has motivated me in pursuing this cause, Good Advisors Finish First, and you've been a part of this with me, is you'll see a lot of back offices almost kind of talk down about advisors. Oh, those advisors don't understand what they're making. They don't understand what they're selling. They don't understand what they're doing. They're almost just, even in the independent space, almost viewing advisors as an employee. So how important is it as an advisor, regardless of your affiliation, even if you are with a wire or with an organization where you are an employee, how important is it for an advisor to quantify their P&L and look at what they are actually making, what they're actually receiving in terms of support from whatever affiliation model they happen to be a part of?
Yeah, I mean, quantifying P&L is like the most boring term you could ever use for just understanding your cost structure and what you're getting into, right? And because of our growth and where we are in the RA and advisor ecosystem, that's been a core tenet of how we've recruited advisors. It's just education on what all these different cost structures are, whether you're already independent, whether you're at a regional firm like a MML or Ed Jones, or whether you're at a wirehouse. A lot of advisors just don't understand the cost structure at their firms, right? And then the other side of that is we think the industry has kind of gone a little crazy in terms of, the unholy trifecta of costs and independence, which I'll talk about a little bit later. In the spirit of achieving what we set out to do at New Edge Advisors is, create a culture of like-minded advisors at this firm that is small in culture, like the AG Edwards of the world, right? Like some of the MPH firms, John, that, advisors can know each other, can have that, relationship, but with the big giant resources behind the scenes that we're able to access. So you need both the big and the small. And as an extension of that, we've just had this maniacal approach of transparency and honesty with advisors and telling the truth and delivering upon that. It's kind of a sad state of affairs that, one of our selling points is that we don't lie to advisors. We don't lie to recruits. It's just, we show them what they're going to make, and then that's what they make. And there's not anything necessarily wrong with some of those costs that we're going to talk about. But I think the industry has gone a little crazy with, admin fees and platform fees and ticket charges and that unholy trifecta. And if you're not aware of those costs as you're looking at different firms or looking to go independent or wherever you are, if you don't understand those costs, it's really, really hard to be a successful business owner, right? Helping good advisors finish first is knowing how to be a better business owner, which includes knowing your costs, right?
And cost is only relevant in the absence of value. So it's what are you receiving for what you're paying? And what I love about what you're talking about, what you guys are doing, and really what we're trying to do with this cause is the open collaboration among advisors. So it's like you said, you're telling the truth, you're not lying to the advisors, but you have that community of advisors who are sharing information with one another, people who may have 5 years ago may have been in the shoes of somebody who's looking to make a leap, and trying to help them understand what the cost benefit of the different things that they're receiving from their particular entity. So what are, Ryan, some of the, I guess, bigger things that you mentioned platform fees, you mentioned admin, like what are some of the bigger things that advisors miss on across the board with advisors you come across?
Yeah, I think it comes down to ultimately, there's been this huge shift towards independence and this huge shift towards the independent RA as well. But the thing that a lot of firms don't talk about is independence isn't for everybody. Right? We would make the argument that outside of the culture of the wirehouses and some of the, there's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with any of these business models, right? There's good, successful advisors doing great work for clients at all of them.
Yep.
But the myth of independence, of better economics, really isn't true, right? It's all about margin in the business. And the myth of the 90% payout is something that a lot of people don't talk about. The below the line fees outside of that, 90 or higher percent payout is really erode the economic benefit of independence, right? So if you're not aware of these costs, that unholy trifecta of costs, as we say, of admin fees, platform fees, ticket charges, right? You can end up, if you leave the wirehouse, you can end up right back at, a true net payout that you had at the wirehouse, with now all the headaches of owning your own business and having employees and doing all the things that a small business owner advisor needs to do. It's wild, but we've seen it happen at other firms. A wirehouse advisor breaks away, starts their own firm, or joins, a firm, isn't aware of a lot of those, perceived or hidden costs, and they end up doing worse than they were at the wirehouse. And congratulations, you own a business and they're getting paid less. It's crazy, but it happens.
So when you say the myth of the 90%, so at some point we may have you back and we'll get into more details and maybe even use some examples of some advisors. We'll just say Joe Smith or whatever, and run through some scenarios. But just keeping it today a little bit more high level, generic. So what would a general, let's say somebody does break away, they're offered 90% payout. Where do you see people potentially coming out in the actual numbers on average?
Yeah. So if you add in, 90% payout, you have manager fees, third-party platform fees, SMA costs, potential ticket charges, right? You can start to erode that margin down to, 40 to 50%. Ultimately, right? If you pay 20 basis points in a platform fee, or 30 basis points to have, mutual fund manager or third party that you're outsourcing investments to, if there's ticket charges that you're not aware of, that it can very, very easily add up to 20, 30% of net costs. That's not uncommon at all. And it kind of depends on model. And we've done a lot of this breakdown, John. It's kind of in terms of effort in your business, effort on the business side of the house versus your net margin, right? On, if you look at that as a, Y and X axis, you have, highest net margin would be on the right side. Your Y axis is effort, essentially. A wirehouse, show up, tap in, you have your staff, you have your office space. The effort in terms of the business ownership is pretty low, but so is the payout. At an independent broker dealer, right, a lot of those firms, you end up, because of that unholy trifecta of costs, right? You don't have to file your ADV. You're not an RA. In a lot of ways, independent is still captive if you're part of a, corporate BD and corporate RAA, because you don't control policy, you don't control product, you don't control access, you don't control the cost structure that you're working under. That's kind of the closest to that W2 wirehouse, and we've seen 45 to 55% true net payout isn't uncommon in the indie BD space. And that's where, the other piece here is that 90% payout, as you say, usually comes after some of those platform and administrative fees, right? So if you take 1%, take 15 or 20 basis points off the top of that, then throw it through a 90% grid, right? You start to wash out that payout, and you make a little less. Taking more of a lower number doesn't mean you're taking 90% of 100. And then what we also saw was, a lot of the custodians and some broker dealers have gotten rid of ticket charges, but ticket charges are a wild variable here, right? It's a tricky thing, because it's not just initial investing and ongoing trading. It's, hey, the client that's dumping $5,000 or $10,000 a month, or I need $50,000 for my account this month. All those trade costs add up, and we've seen it be 5 to 10x what an advisor budgets and expects in their business. So the spectrum, it's kind of wirehouse, independent broker dealer, the dynasties and those firms of the world. You still, they help you set up your RIA, but at the same time, you're still your own RIA. Owning your own RIA, right? That's the most effort and a high payout. But we'd make the argument that having a shared RIA type model with the right firm, you can have less effort because you're independent, but you can focus on truly being an advisor, right? So for the right advisors that are in right growth mode, that want to focus on being an advisor and being a business owner, not running the RA behind them, it's kind of the sweet spot of highest margin with, not as much effort compared to your own. And, our firm, to give a small, we reach this terminal velocity where advisors at our RIA can get all the benefits of an RIA at arguably better economics than they could go do it on their own. And every single one of the firms with us could be their own RIA. Right.
I wanted to ask you about that. There's, and you and I, going back to MPH and as advisory consultants and talking to advisors about the pros and cons of advisory business, the pros and cons of advisors who are looking to go independent. So in your mind, again, speaking in a general nature, when would it make sense potentially for an advisor, maybe production level or just the type of an office, when would it make sense for an advisor to potentially do their own versus joining a New Edge or another aggregator system?
Yeah. I mean, that's a nuanced question, and there's a lot of different variables to it. Our sweet spot is kind of that 300 to $1 billion range. Now we have some teams, on other side of that, but it depends on kind of what your client base is, the size of your client base, what types of products that you're using, right? If it's a lot of alternatives or more individual equities or mutual funds and ETF, there's no right or wrong answer on any of this stuff. And it's also the desire, right? Some advisors just want to, they just want to be an RIA, right? They want to try and capitalize on the equity of not only their business, but of recruiting other advisors and being an RIA as well. And that's okay. There is a benefit to that, but it's few and far between the successful advisor that can also be a successful recruiter and a successful chief compliance officer and RIA owner. Like, they're out there, and those individuals are of a different breed, but it's a different type of person that can be a successful independent financial advisor. It's an even kind of rare air to start an RIA that ends up being successful as well. It's really hard to do both, right? It's very, very hard to run an RIA and have clients.
And you mentioned the economics of it, where in that system, you may benefit from a bigger mass and a number of people negotiating terms and so forth. So what are some of the things that your firm does and other aggregators do to help offset costs? What are some of the areas where you benefit from that larger pool of advisors in terms of negotiating?
Yeah, it's ultimately, the question that we ask is, if you don't have more time and margin to grow your business, are you independent? Right? Truly, are you independent? And if you struggle to operate as a fiduciary in your business, are you truly independent? And on the scale side, right, we use our size and scale to have better pricing, to give back to that trickles down to advisors, to give them more time and more margin to grow, to reinvest in their business, right? And so everything that we do is based on at least at our firm, right? We recruit more successful, more established teams, right? It's not at least in our side, it's not the place that these are already successful advisors. They don't have a struggle or a hard time growing and finding new clients, right? So our thesis, we give that advisor more of themselves, more time and more margin. That's the ticket to unlocking their growth. And by simplifying the cost structure that I mentioned earlier, right? We're able to do away with admin fees. We do away with platform fees. We simplify ticket charges. We offer kind of high payout to independent successful teams. It has unlocked growth, and those types of advisors in that environment grow extraordinarily fast, right? We've seen it happen time and time again. You give an advisor more of themselves to do what they do, they go do it.
And and independence is important, and being able to manage money, engage with clients in the capacity that you believe is in their best interest as an advisor is important. You mentioned that ticket charges we're seeing more and more are going away, and the custodians are finding other ways to earn revenue. What considerations should an advisor have as far as the product mix when evaluating whether it be a firm or custodian? How does an advisor really identify when they might be giving up independence in order to save perceived cost on the front end?
Yeah, that's a hard one. That's a hard question to answer. No transaction fee programs are ball of yarn across the industry. There's nothing wrong with it, right? It provides a lot of value, but to pay to play to get more shelf space amongst advisors is tricky, especially now that a lot of these firms have given away, free ETF and equity trading, or there's, expensive ticket charges on other products at other firms. It's, to have to navigate the cost of, that variable cost in a business is very, very difficult. And to manage money with that variable is a conflict and very difficult, right? So there's better ways that you can navigate that, right? If, asset-based pricing, or, eating those ticket charges or passing them along. There's any number of ways you can do that, but in the spirit of, again, like I said earlier, giving advisors back more of themselves, right? At our firm, we only want advisors to manage money if they want to, right? There's plenty of advisors that do that act as portfolio manager, that do a really good job of it. But we want advisors here, and we think all advisors should do so intentionally, right? If you want to be a money manager, do that intentionally. You can build the business structure and your resources and people and research around that. But option number two, a lot of advisors don't want to be portfolio managers, don't want to do research and allocation, and they want to offload that to, any number of the, third-party investment managers, UMA, SMA marketplaces, TPAM, TAMPs, in-house, models that teams run, whatever that looks like, right? At our firm, again, we tried to set this up in a way to levelize the cost between those two, right? And that's a key part of, our value add is you can manage assets, you can offload assets, but the cost is really the same, right? And that's another one of our radical ideas, if you would, that if you levelize the cost between outsourcing and managing investments, and you simplify, the structure in which you can do that, and try and get rid of a lot of those conflicts of ticket charges, NTF, trade a lot, trade a little, big account, small account, right? You simplify all of those things. You simplify the cost structure for advisors to manage assets or to outsource that. What happens? The advisors that want to manage assets can do so and can reinvest in their business accordingly. The ones that don't aren't forced to wear that hat and manage assets because it's too expensive to offload investment management, right? So again, in the spirit of trying to give advisors back more time, margin, and flexibility, we, at least at our firm, we built out a pretty dynamic investment platform that solves for both of those, right? Manage assets, outsource to, a third-party platform, but don't pay excessive admin and platform and ticket charges, right? So it all kind of feeds together, and it all feeds on the idea of, with the right advisors, you're able to simplify and give them a better, box to operate inside of, a less restrictive box. They just grow faster. Everybody's happier. Clients do better. Advisors grow more. We grow more.
Wins all around. Everybody wins in that scenario. So if I'm an advisor today, and one thing I've always recommended advisors do, whatever firm that I've been employed by, is like, hey, hold us accountable. You get a call from a recruiter on a Wednesday at 1 p.m. Maybe you don't pick up, and on a Friday at 3, take the call and just hold us accountable, learn, what else is out there, come back to us. So if I'm an advisor right now, I can talk to a recruiter, a different recruiter every hour of the day if I wanted to. How would you advise an advisor, whether not necessarily that they need to make a move, but at least evaluating their book of business, the P&L of their book of business, and then also thoughtfully and objectively evaluating other options that might be out there?
Yeah, for sure. It comes down to, trusted partners at your firm, right? There's a lot of consultants out there who can help you wade through a lot of this stuff. Third party, recruiters, I think for the most part, do a good job of helping advisors vet their options. Again, there's no right or wrong way to do this necessarily. We've just seen, because of what we're doing at New Edge, we've seen this exact thesis come true and work. It's hard to wade through all this stuff, right? It's hard to understand the structure until you're already in it. And once you're already in it, it can sometimes be too late, right? So it's truly understanding all these cost structures up front where you currently are. And again, it comes down to the decision on, like you said earlier, John, the cost and the value that you get from that. If you're operating on a platform that, charges 20 or 30 basis points your business, that's okay, unless you have a better option that, provides more value to the business. So again, it's not calling any of those platform bad or ugly or anything. An advisor needs to understand that cost structure so you can understand, what your net is and know what you're getting into at the end of the day, rather than, leaving a wirehouse for independence. And it's not all about higher payout, but, if you're making less in your independent business unintentionally, that's not being a better business owner, right? In the spirit of your cause, John, that's not being a better business owner. And so it's trying to, again, at least here we try, and it's more of an educational process with advisors on, hey, what do we provide and what are the things that you need to be aware of as you vet different firms and different affiliation options. I think that kind of educational approach is really important. It's not the only way to recruit, but it's a pretty transparent one.
And if an advisor is tied into a wirehouse or in a system, as you mentioned, you're operating as an investment advisor representative of that firm's RIA, you're looking at other options. Do you move out and fold under another RIA? Do you do your own? There's a lot of advisors who've been in this broker dealer model. Again, maybe they're in a mostly advisory business, but they're still close to that broker dealer model because they're under the RIA. If I'm an advisor in that type of a system, what would you advise an advisor to do that is maybe in that position of considering whether going full in, completely RIA versus staying in that hybrid mode?
Yeah, we have that conversation a lot. I've had that conversation a lot, right? Where some of the one of the benefits of the corporate broker dealer RIA model, right, is everything is usually under one roof, right? That aligns with what the wirehouse teams, the Edward Joneses, the Raymond Jameses of the world, the Ameriprises have, right? It's self-clearing. Everything is under one roof. They're not all self-clearing, but your broker dealer business and your RIA business is under one roof, right? If you're RIA only, right, you kind of split your house in half and potentially move away from some of those assets. If you're a hybrid advisor, you kind of have to split your house in two, right? Your broker dealer business is in one place and your RIA assets and business is in another place, typically, right? Which just means use technology, and there's all kinds of systems across the board that makes that experience more streamlined. Seamline. That's a new word, John.
Yeah, write that one down.
But that's an important consideration. And then who knows where the regulatory winds are going to go, right? We've had this 10-year trend towards the fiduciary model, and I don't think that that growth isn't going to slow. But at the same time, to walk away, if you have, I think Teresa in Sheboygan always says this, and even if I'm using brokerage business on the commission side and the FINRA side of the house, I'm still doing so in your best interest, right? One model isn't better than the other. There's absolutely a place for different clients and different business on the brokerage side and the advisory side. And by only doing one or the other, you can lose some of that potential best interest if you handcuff your options, right? So there is no right or wrong answer. There's no perfect way to run this business. That's the beautiful part about where we are in the industry. There's these trends and things happening, but for the right team, it makes sense to go RA only, but you can give some things up by not being a hybrid advisor. And then we add in the unknown regulatory headwinds of FINRA and SEC. Who the heck knows, right? If I drop my Series 7 in my broker dealer today, maybe I regret that in 3 years if there's a regulatory shift. But the other side of that, I've yet to meet an advisor who's gone that route and wants to go back. So I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth.
But it is ultimately about the client. And so I appreciate that you've recognized that the theming around this is helping good advisors become better business owners. I've been talking to a number of people. We're actually in the process of kind of reframing that. That's another topic, but I got feedback that's too narrow of a focus. That's one of the focuses of what we're trying to do, but it's more than just being a better business owner. And so one of the taglines we've been toying with, or the current leader in the clubhouse, is providing better client outcomes as a community. Something along those lines. And then being a better business owner is just part of that. But you mentioned advisors having all these different models, whether it be commission based, whether it be FINRA, whether it be advisory. It ultimately needs to be based on that client outcome. There's a lot of different ways to accomplish it, and if I'm focused on that and that alone, everybody wins, right? That's the recipe for success. It's not saying, oh, I have to be a fiduciary, oh, I have to do something that's in your best interest, I have to do something that's suitable. We're running out of time, but I wanted to get your take real quick before we sign off, Ryan, on another business model that is really in becoming more and more prominent. You're hearing more and more about it. Fee for service, fee only, fee-based planning. Where do you see that fitting into this equation, as an advisor? If I'm an advisor and I'm looking at my different models, do I want to remain with FINRA? Do I want to go RA? If I'm looking at my different revenue sources and maybe trying to explore other options, where do you see fee-based fitting in today? And then again, like you said, maybe that changes down the road in the regulatory environment, but where do you see that fitting today?
Yeah, I mean, can we set another call to go through all that, John?
We will. Yeah, absolutely.
No, and like you
this
said,
is just a tease, Ryan. So
yeah,
that's fine.
In helping, advisors become better business owners, right? We have fun at our firm, and John's goal here is turn the lights on, be very transparent, shine a light on everything and everybody, right? That aligns with at the firm I'm at now, kind of how we talk to advisors and how we recruit people and some of our growth. So those two things align, and that's why I get excited about John's cause. I know what he's trying to do, but the ethos here with John's cause and good advisors finish first aligns with kind of what we're doing from the leadership team at our RA, and that's been a lot of fun. And that's why good advisors finish first kind of spoke to me, on top of just I couldn't say no to John even if I had wanted to, because
yeah, I wouldn't let you. We go back too far. I wouldn't let you. But no, I appreciate you saying that. But it's and a lot of people have said this, right? It's not. This isn't my cause. This is our cause. This is. We can call it a number of different names. There's a lot of people on a very, very similar, if not the same exact mission. And it's really, I keep saying it's inevitable, right? The lights are coming on, whether we do lift a finger. That's inevitably going to happen. Your clients will be 100% aware of what they're paying for and what they're getting, sooner rather than later. Our method, or, our mentality is, since that's inevitable, let's just acknowledge that and let's just make it happen a little bit quicker. And that starts with advisors, the lights being turning on for the advisors, and understanding their situation and what their options are. So like you said, we can open up a whole host of different spin-off topics and things. And so when I say our cause, Ryan, you've been absolutely one of the foremost supporters in terms of just helping with this concept, turn the lights on, your transparency. I've always enjoyed working with you and your philosophy. And so we will certainly revisit this topic and others, bring you back. I was telling you earlier, maybe we do a quarterly, Ryan session or New Edge. And maybe next time we do get into some more specifics and really start digging in. Like I said, we use an example advisor, because I think that would be very helpful in terms of turning on the lights for some advisors who are evaluating options.
I guess I would challenge there, John. You said it right. Clients are absolutely going to be aware of that structure with their advisor. I would argue the RA industry's client is the advisor. I mean, by proxy, the retail investor. Mm-hmm. So that flows both directions, right? The advisor should absolutely be aware of and be knowledgeable on that cost structure of what they're paying their firm. So client to advisor, and advisor to their firm, their RA, their partner in the business, right? That's a two-way street. We can the fee for service model, if you would. That's almost a topic for another day, but that'll keep evolving. I would say my belief is the easiest way for clients to pay advisors, and the easiest way for an advisor to be paid, is the AUM model. Still, that's always going to be the case. For clients that have the ability to pay fee for service, that's a really, really intriguing model for the right client, right? For the right educated client. And, over the long term, as customers and clients become more educated on their cost structure that you just mentioned, right? I think that fee for service model becomes a little more intriguing, but it's not the path of least resistance, right? Having to stroke a check to my advisor for asset management and planning and, tax loss harvesting, or, you start splitting apart what you get for the advisor and striking a check, or, swiping my credit card to pay for that. It feels very different than just taking, debiting an existing account that I see that, but I don't feel it like I do writing a check. So it's a nuanced part of the industry, but I think the fee for service model will grow, but it's not the path of least resistance for advisors or for clients.
And we could open up another,
Yeah.
I'll sign off. We could open up another track as far as the transparency, but as you know, just thinking in something that we've long advised, helped advisors to do, is to try to quantify those things, whether you're charging for those things or not. Try to tax loss harvesting is 10 basis points of my fee, whatever. I mean, just trying to have a list or having these things kind of written out, for yourself. It's not necessarily something that has to be shared with the clients, but at least, starting to have that framework and that mentality can help to, from a client perspective, quantify, justify the fees. And then, like you said, the same thing should be happening on the other side with RIAs, with custodians, with broker dealers, for enterprise level firms. So Ryan, thank you so much for jumping in this week. We will revisit this topic and again, all the spinoffs that we've uncovered today many times over, as many times as you're willing to step up to the plate. Again, thank you so much for being part of this. We will be discussing this particular topic all week inside the GAF Peer Pod. Please engage there. Let us know if this topic is something, or one of these spinoffs is something that's more relevant to you, so that we can revisit it sooner rather than later. Ryan, thank you so much again for joining us. We will talk to you again soon.
Yeah. Thanks, John. Thanks for listening. And anybody else who listens, appreciate you hearing me out here as well.